welcome back to NycosRPG. I'm Jonathan Albin, your host, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. I came upon a revelation, and I think I'd really like to share it with you, and I hope that you receive it with the intent that I am offering it. It has everything to do with an empty chair right here, and also a presence that we haven't seen in a while. Let's get started.
Absorbing damage is the name of your game. From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball of flame. Our strength in numbers is a roll of the dice.
Alrighty, so I've got to still figure out where my cameras are. Okay, alrighty, so today we're going to be talking about the empty chair at my table. And it's been there for a while. It's still yours. And no one's been trying to replace you. Now, this video is particularly for those who have played role-play games and maybe haven't done so in a while, or maybe you made an experimental reach into it at some point in the past, but let it go, so to speak. And so we're going to be talking about that in particular. But this is really in reference to kind of a epiphany that I've personally had. And as we go through this, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. You see, there is an empty chair here, and no one has been trying to replace you with it. We've had good players. We've had great ones even. But there's something different when you're not here. You see, I've been thinking about why people leave, why people stop playing role-play games. Why do they move on to other subjects? And it's not because of you in particular, but it's never just one thing, is it? Sometimes it's burnout. You've just played, done all the hours of preparation. Maybe you've done a bit of game mastery in your own past. You get tired of being the one that holds the groups together. It's nice to have a group that wants to play together, and sometimes that just isn't in the cards. Sometimes it's just time itself. You have kids. You have jobs. Life demands much more from you than you expected, and they certainly expect more than the dice bag ever did. And sometimes it can even be the slow erosion of wonder. Now, I do believe this may be a huge element of the reason why people move away from role-playing games and into other endeavors. It just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. You look at the games that you have on your shelves and you say, I used to care about that, but why don't I anymore? And see, I don't blame you. As a matter of fact, the hobby's changed, and the world has too. There are new mechanics, new expectations. There's a cacophony of voices out there, systems, safety sheets, virtual tables, crowdfunding for everything. Seems like every person that wants to play a game has a hand in your pocket as well. Maybe you tried coming back once. Maybe you sat down at a table, but it didn't quite feel right. Maybe the group didn't click, or maybe you didn't. You looked around the table and you thought, I used to understand this. I used to have people here at the table, but now I'm just watching it happen. But I'm telling you, I'm not calling you to watch. I'm calling you to be. That's the part that really matters, not the rules, not the setting. Not how many of the source books you own and how many sets of dice you have. It's about being present, being inside the moment, being with the players at the table. Not just remembering which games you used to love, but feeling it again. That essence of being playful. When your character doesn't do something that you expect, or your character does something that you didn't expect. When a laugh slips out when you didn't plan to, maybe you make a faux pas that makes the entire table fall over. But then the story turns and then your guts drop out with it. Now, you used to live for that. And if you didn't in role-play games, you did in other ways. And here's the thing. You still can. You don't owe anybody a performance. You don't need to run the game. You don't even have to know how to use you don't even have to know the mechanics of the latest system that is out there. You don't even have to know your character's backstory before you begin the first session. You just have to show up and give it a try. Try to care again. Try to risk again. Try to belong again. That chair isn't just open because we miss your skill. It's open because we remember who you are when the game begins. Because you're here, really here. And when you are, it really changes everything. You listen differently. You experience differently. You see people differently. You push your scenes perhaps deeper. You create tension that's not written in any stat block. It's something that you've created. You remind us that this is more than just a pastime. This is a place, a time for us to become. And if that sounds like too much, let it be simple. Just come in, sit down, roll a dice or two, ask a question, make a decision, make a choice, and let the rest happen at the speed of trust. Now, I'll be here. And the others all here will be here too, whenever you're ready. The table still works. The world's still waiting, and there's a story we haven't told yet. We just need you to help us tell it. All right, I want to thank you for being with me for that presentation, if you will. I really feel it's important that you are part of our community, and we're going to go into some other broader topics over the next few minutes, going into additional information, but I wanted to get that covered because I want you to know that this empty seat is right here for you whenever you're ready for it. Okay, now it's been a long time. It's been a really long time since you played, and I'm still looking at the wrong camera, aren't I? I will never figure this thing out. It has been weeks, months, years, decades since you played at a table. Maybe you've been a player in my roleplay games before. I've GM'd all over the country and in many of the states. I would hazard to say that I've been able to be a game master in every state, but most of them have seen me around. But it's been a while. I haven't been as much of a force majeure as I might think I am at times, simply because the stories that I tell tend to be isolated to the groups that I participate with. But it's been a while, and that doesn't change a thing. When we talk about, for example, athletics and a person who played baseball in their youth and they're now endeavoring to play as an adult, yeah, your bones get a little rickety and you get a little less acute in terms of how fast you can move. But here's a sport. This is a hobby. This is a practice that you never age from, because the mechanics of the game only depend on the die rolls, not necessarily on your own physical capability. So the irony is that as you get older, technically you would get better at it, you would think. So don't use time as your excuse. If you haven't played in a while, come and join us. I think you'll see why. So that leads naturally to the question, why did you stop playing? Now, many of us, I sound accusatory when I say that, so that if you're watching this video, this may or may not be you, but it's been my experience with this audience so far that I'm speaking to both veteran game masters and longtime players who have considered the task of being a storyteller. So when was it that you stopped participating, playing the game? I've been GMing for so long, I look back at the times that I took a break, a hiatus from the game, and I wonder why I pulled the plug. And it can be a lot of reasons. One of them could be cultural. You may have run into people that just simply don't play. Maybe you're of a more timid characteristic and you're not willing to risk it all, so therefore you simply tamp down on these feelings of playfulness and instead endeavor to work harder, put your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and you simply forgot how to play because you simply are out of practice. The reality is that maybe something in your life has changed. Maybe the career options that you find yourself in don't provide you with an opportunity to find players. Maybe your schedule is so screwed up that you can't pick a week over week day wherein you can actually play. And all of these things are realities in our world today. There are a lot of changes. And yes, the games have moved on, the games have adapted. And that has, I believe, everything to do with the endeavor to generate revenue from it. Those people who publish the books intend to sell them because they want people to buy them and therefore become interested in them. And therefore, there's a burden placed on them to try to make it a bigger, better product. And so, therefore, yes, something's changed. But that something could be you as a player. If you have stepped away for a period of time, maybe you're not getting the same opportunities you've had before, and therefore it's a more difficult situation to be in the game. It could also be that the tempo simply has shifted. It used to be when, take my teeth out, back in my day, it would be 10 rounds of battle in an evening, and that would be the end of the night. The game's speeded up. The sessions have moved on. The story has become less deep. And this is not necessarily the cause or caused by the players, as may be the storytellers have simply not developed as much time into their story as they have in the past. But this change in tempo is uncomfortable, and getting used to a new tempo is a real problem. So it's important to always strive to find the sweet spot. What is it that you are endeavoring to gather and find a way to get what you need from the games? Oh no, we've forgotten how to laugh. Had to mess with my tile there, but maybe the situation is that we've taken ourselves too seriously. During the period when COVID was the threat, there was a very real and present danger to individuals being perceived in the world because we didn't want to be misunderstood or misconstrued. We no longer had the comfort of sitting face to face, but now we had to deal with the uncomfortable void that is online play. Even Discord can be somewhat disconnecting, especially if you're not utilizing cameras. And because of that, we become concerned with what may or may not be comfortably funny to us, and therefore we no longer laugh. And we have to really find ways to decalcify, to undo the world as it has become around us, because as we have allowed it to form and solidify and define us, we've put ourselves at risk of not appreciating the irony or something, or the humor in something, especially if it's something that we, heaven forbid, actually did on accident. It's also a matter of what matters now. If you are a long-term role player and you've played for several years and you've lost the ball, so to speak, you've lost the connection, then maybe it's a matter of relearning what's interesting in roleplay today. Maybe there's a different nuance. Perhaps you're going to be even better at it than you were before. But it's really a matter of determining what is important to the players and how do we bring that out together. Now this one may hit kind of close to home, and that is, do you have permission to play? When we are in relationships, when we have people in our lives to which we owe a duty and an obligation, we often feel like we have to, that takes a precedence over our own entertainment, our own joy. And really, when I ask this question, I'm not asking of someone else. I'm not saying, does it take a spouse or a parent to give you permission to play? It's, can you give yourself permission to let go, to unbind from it all? Can you accept the humor that might be there. I don't know that that's always the case, but I do know in my case that was a burden that I overcame early, because the reality was the permission, the willingness to be entertained is really a matter of stopping the tendency to try to make it work. And I'm sure that you've probably had that situation where you've had a business obligation that felt more of a burden, and yet you felt like you had to do it because that was what was expected of you. So what is the obligation of a story? Well, the reality is just as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. There's an empty chair here. Your only obligation is to fill the chair. Yes, that sounds coarse and callous. It means that I'm not necessarily considering who you individually might be, but the reality is that we collectively have more fun when we are all playing together and we're not allowing something like a duty or an obligation overcome that or overwhelm that. And so when I say the obligation of a story, I'm saying we should be able to, as I say, give permission and appreciate the sheer joy of being engaged in the practice. Wow, I've been all over the place tonight, and yes, I want you to take the load off. I don't want there to be a burden placed upon you, whoever you are. If you've been at my game sessions religiously and are still coming, bless your heart. If you have not been able to make it for whatever reason, you are more than welcome back at any given time. I am at the Board Games Paradise Mondays and Tuesdays, 6 until 10 p.m. Pacific. And I am online on Sunday for my Patreon supporter players. So if either one of those sounds like fun, make sure you let me know and I'll do what I can to get you connected up. I'd love to have you at our table. And yes, I want you to take the load off. This is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be enjoying ourselves. And we can't do that if we're making a job out of it. And on the larger scale, we need to give ourselves a reason to play. Maybe your reason for play is so that you can connect with your family better. I know in my case, my son and his children are on the East Coast, and it's really hard to set up times with them to engage in even just a regular conversation, so I know how tough it is. But give yourself permission and a reason, because when you become more playful and engage with the nature of play, you'll become more imaginative, creative. We could go into all the details of that, and I know I've waxed far too long on this subject, but I really needed you to know I want you to be at our table. So why don't we get together sometime and let's play.